I'm Robert Cardoza, and you're watching On the Street, the intersection of business and politics. Right now, my guest is Gil Savage. Gil is the regional director for the American Association of Community Theaters. Tremendous job, covers California, Nevada, Arizona, and Hawaii. He's also a member of the board of directors, and we're talking about how important community theater is to all of us. Now, I want to remind everybody about my next segment coming up is going to be the good news and the bad news, so you don't want to leave after Gil's done. There's going to be a lot of things going on here. Just want to remind you that. Remind you also to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and Google+. And you can see across the bottom of the screen all kinds of ways to get a hold of me. I encourage you to write me. I'll put it on the air if I can, if it's something nice that I can say anyway. In the meantime, Gil, welcome aboard. Let's continue our conversation here.
Wonderful.
We're talking about more community theater than the association, but let's talk about the association. The association is something that really organizes some cohesiveness to all of the community theaters in the nation, I'm guessing.
Yes, very much so. There's, we look at community theaters, there's like a progression of development of community theaters. You know, from the handful of people who sit down and say, let's do a show and we'll do it in the school auditorium, to then developing a board to support them. And then there's like 3 or 4 degrees of sophistication as the board grows more and more competent, and they bring more people into it. And at some level, they start bringing in people who with business experience and are looking to support the community theater as a business. And that's really important, very, very important influence and smarts to bring into making it work.
Do you find that the bigger companies, you know, San Diego Gas and Electric and the water company and the telephone company, most of those big companies really want to support local theater, local endeavors, the community, that's what I really wanted to say. And do you find that kind of support going to the theater groups as well?
Not so much. Their focus for those kinds of organizations tends to be more like regional theater and professional theater, unless it's in the bigger cities. In the smaller cities, the local community theater is often such a pillar of the community, if you will, that they do get that kind of support.
Well, I've been lucky enough to go to a lot of community theater performances, I was going to say presentations, and even here in San Diego where we're at. And I'll tell you what, I think the quality of what you see is just as good as you would see anywhere. These people are dedicated, they practice hard. I don't care if you've been a professional for 30 years or if you've been in this thing for 6 months or 3 months. Sure. The truth is, everybody makes a mistake once in a while. Sometimes that makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
But I've always come out of these performances saying, wow, that was terrific.
Community theater is an astonishingly great opportunity for training. Many of the people who perform in community theaters do it for years.
And move on?
And some move on, some don't. Moving on into the professional world sometimes means you have to learn not to eat. But for many people it means that...
That wouldn't hurt me at all, you know.
Yeah. Me neither. But for a lot of those people, there are people who very often were trained in college and had maybe some professional experience and then worked in the non-theatrical world. They still get a chance to continue to develop their artistry and their skills, and you will see some wonderful talent in community theater.
Absolutely. Now I want to get into another area before we run out of time, and that is there is a competition that takes place on a national basis for community theater. Could you kind of describe how it starts in your own backyard and works up to a national level? We've got about 3 minutes we can do that with.
Okay, good. Well, it's an amazing thing. People don't know we actually have kind of a Super Bowl of community theater, and the act is divided up into 12 regions. The region for California, Arizona, Nevada, and Hawaii, the one I work with, is Region 8. So typically what you happen in the states will have a competition. The plays that come out of that will go to the regional theater and then to the regional competitions, and then those 12 will end up at a national festival, the National Fest they call it.
So let's talk about the competition itself.
Well, it's very interesting. It starts out with the curtain is down, the curtain goes up and a timer goes off, a 10-minute timer. In the back of the theater is a 10 by 10 by 10 grid. Actors, the sets, everything that's involved with that show have to start in that 10
Within
foot.
that grid.
That's correct. They have 10 minutes to scramble out of there, set up their sets, get everything ready for the show. The timer goes off, bing, the curtain goes down. They have 1 minute, the curtain goes back up, and you're watching a show from the beginning to the end.
Wow.
Now the shows are tailored to 60 minutes each. They're typical theater. I mean, it's the same shows that you see in theaters. In fact, the shows must come from a regular season show from the original theater that it started with. And after the end of the show, curtain goes down. They have another 5 minutes to put everything back into their grid. And curtain comes back up, and then a series of adjudicators come out, who are professionals usually, and they will, they're professional adjudicators always, but they will come out and then they will adjudicate the show, meaning that they will give a critique and suggestions and how they look at it. Judges, yes. We don't say judges in theater. Call them adjudicators.
Okay.
So it helps keeps the fist fights down in the audience and the fighting between the cast and the audience. But what happens is that they, after that, there's about 10 minutes of showing the adjudication, and then the curtain goes down and the next guy's going the next square and it starts all over again.
Start early in the morning till late at night and for a number of days?
They'll do it over the course of 3 days. They'll do shows in the afternoon and shows in the evening, 3 in the afternoon, 3 in the evening typically.
And so this becomes then from local to state to regional to
nationals.
Nationals.
Yes.
How great is that?
Yeah.
Do you know the website by heart?
Yes, it's www.aact.org.
And if they wanted to learn about these theaters in their local area, they could find it right there. They could search it.
In some cases that they can. We don't provide a source for promoting shows in the smaller area. So usually you have to go look at your local sources to find out that
newspaper.
Newspaper, online, just do a search online, community theater in San Diego or wherever it is, bang, you'll get a full list of everybody you need to see.
One last question.
Yeah.
How long have you been involved with the American Association of Community Theaters?
Well, I've been on the board for 7 years and a couple of years before that. I didn't know they existed. I had been working in community theater for some time. I went to see a national festival and decided this is something I really wanted to support. Well,
Gil, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming in and being my guest here today. I think we're going to have you again because people are going to want to hear more about the American Association of Community Theater. Thank you very much.
I'd be delighted.
I want to remind everyone that you can follow me on Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those places. Go to YouTube, search Robert Cardoza Live. You'll see all of our shows there. You're watching On the Street, the intersection of business and politics. Me? Yeah, I'm Robert Cardoza.